Hi guys, it is April from Getting Hookah With It. Today I'm doing a video that's going to feel like torture for me. I'm going to be reading 1-star reviews of some of my very favorite books of all time. Wish me luck. Let's get into it. First, we're going to be diving into 1-star reviews of Pride and Prejudice, which was probably my first favorite book. So here's Rex's review. This is the most overrated book in history of literature. The plot borders between meaningless and trivial. I was forced to read the book in 9th grade English class. This was perhaps the most tedious school assignment I've ever received to date. For several pages, a lady remarks to a man about what wonderful handwriting he has. Not exactly gripping material. The entire book seems to be about hormone-driven, marriageable age creatures trying to outwit each other in word and on the dance floor. The book itself is bad enough, but to complicate matters, women pledge allegiance not only to the book, but also to the gazillion-hour movie. Well, first of all, that was a mini-series on the BBC. And why are you watching that if you really hated the book? I think the first problem with this is, I have to say, unfortunately, when people are assigned a book when they're in high school, that's like a little more difficult to understand. He probably was struggling with the language, I'm assuming, but there is nothing. What might seem trivial is totally tongue-in-cheek for Jane Austen, and it's just like he just missed the mark for what that book represents and what Jane Austen was trying to do. Okay, Shay writes, what amazes me about this book is not the lack of interesting characters or events within the novel, nor the lack of storyline or even slightly entertaining prose, or even the fact that it is considered a much-loved classic. No, the one thing that amazes me most about Pride and Prejudice is the fact that Austen managed to spin 61, yes seriously, chapters from a storyline that deserves less than 4 pages. Well, I don't know why Shay thinks that he or she can decide like what deserves to be published and what doesn't. The fact that Jane Austen was writing at a time when women weren't really encouraged to write. I think her dad encouraged her to write, if I'm not mistaken. And how can you say they're not interesting characters? Have you met Lydia? Like, no, you haven't met Lydia. Oh, this one is really upsetting. Lady Nerd said, hatred is too strong an emotion to waste on this literary Twilight. So this really upsets me because I despised Twilight because it was, I mean, it's about a girl who never has the gumption to stick up for herself, who like leans on a man, who allows a man to kind of stalk her, and it's encouraged, and like Edward is revered as this like heartthrob when actually he was stalking her, and it makes me really concerned for teenage girls when they read that about what is normal in a relationship. There is nothing like that in Pride and Prejudice. I will give you that Mr. Darcy is a bit of a jerk a lot of the way through, but he proves himself through it, and he never stalks her. He's never like creepy. He's just indifferent and rude to her. And Elizabeth throws that right back in his face. So I don't understand that one at all. Okay. Okay, so next up is The Light Between Oceans. This one is about a couple who live on an island. He's a lighthouse keeper, and one day a boat washes ashore with a living and breathing baby and a dead man in the boat. They have been really struggling to conceive and have multiple miscarriages, and they keep the baby, and there are all sorts of repercussions for that. So this was slightly unfortunate. Linz wrote, I only read this novel for work. Otherwise, I would never have opened the first page. Who gets to read these things for work? That's amazing. Let's face it, I am not the target for this sort of book. I am not a mother, with any plans on becoming a mother in the near or distant future. In fact, when I hear the cries of a youngest, my reaction is more akin to hearing a badly played accordion. So reading about babies and wanting babies and trying to get me to cry over babies just makes me angry. I don't like being emotionally manipulated in novels. Why did you read this at all then? You knew that it was going to include a baby in it. And you knew that it was going to include a woman who loses a baby and then a woman who is dealing with miscarriages. This was not the book for you. Why did you even pick it up? And also, how did you get emotionally manipulated if you don't care at all about babies? That's weird. M wrote, "This book is like watching a train wreck. I read the whole thing, but the whole time I was reading it, I kept thinking, why in the world do people love this book? The book cover tells you that Izzy and Tom find a baby in a boat. In the wake of multiple miscarriages, they decide to keep the baby. And there you have it. Really, can anyone reading this book think things could possibly turn out well for anyone? But strangely, the characters just keep on acting like there's a way to fix things. And it's not even particularly well written. I liked the young Tom and the young Izzy. I thought the description of life on Janus, where Tom is the lighthouse keeper, was beautiful, but there were odd shifts in perspective. Suddenly the narrator was reporting the narrative from another character's point of view. If this had been done skillfully, it would have enriched the story. Instead, the shift happens haphazardly and the reader is bludgeoned over the head with a reminder that this is a poorly written, not so interesting novel. Ick." I could not disagree more. It's not just about people who have miscarriages and then a baby comes to shore. Like, if you've read the book, it's jam-packed with complications. It's not an easy answer for anyone. Strangely, the characters keep on acting like there is a way to fix things. When you are in a situation where all you want is a baby, and then a baby comes to shore and you think, oh my goodness, my prayers have been answered, and then you realize it's a heck of a lot more complicated, you're going to struggle with that and try to fix it. You're internally dealing with your own morals and whether you've done the right thing or not, and can you stop loving someone and let them go for the sake of your morals? It's really complicated. I don't know why I'm doing this. So next up, I'm going to read 1-star reviews of Lily and the Octopus, which is a sweet, sweet story about a man who is dealing with the illness of his dog, Lily. She has this form on her brain that looks like an octopus. You know it's cancer, but he refers to it as the octopus. Oh, Marissa. Marissa wrote, "This was absolutely awful. I am wholeheartedly convinced that the online periodical that recommended it to me must be receiving kickbacks from the publisher, because no one who enjoys the art of writing would enjoy this mindless crap." I beg to differ. Completely void of character development. Author is completely lacking in his ability to bring the reader along for the ride in the suspension of disbelief. I'm irritated I spent my vacation reading such a expletive book. Yeah. I think the problem that I'm dealing with mostly with this is completely void of character development. What? You watch Ted, who loves this little dog, try everything in his power to save this dog, and I don't want to give away the ending. He grows to trust people over the course of the book, and that is character development when he has been heartbroken over and over again in his past. I loved these characters, and Lily's little character, how can you not love Lily the dog? Okay, Penny, I wish I could kind of strangle Penny. I understand loving your pet, but this was too much. Way over the top, and the whole octopus thing just made the main character seem bonkers. And then she wrote in upper cases with a lot of exclamation marks, and this kind of sentences are super annoying to read. No, just no. So my favorite thing about that book was his use of exclamation marks. Like, I'll never look at exclamation marks again the same way. Lily uses exclamation marks in this book, and there is another character that also uses exclamation marks in this way, and it is about the joy of life and like loving life, and characters that love life are explained in this book with exclamation marks every time they talk. And also, it's not way too much to be absolutely mourning and devastated when you find out that your dog is very ill. Libby is very ill, and she has heart issues, she has kidney issues, and the other day I was like trying to get her to drink water with a syringe, and like doing everything I can and thinking of her constantly, and like, if you love a pet, sometimes you love them to that degree. Sometimes you do. Not everyone does, and I get that, but sometimes you do, and you're not insane for it. Maybe you're just very, very kind. Okay, so next we're going to read 1-star reviews of Bird Box, which is like an apocalyptic horror book about a world in which people who see this thing outside go crazy. They kill themselves, they kill other people, and so people are walking around blindfolded, like boarding up their houses and stuff. I loved this book, but I'm sure a lot of people didn't. Okay, so Stephanie wrote, "You've got to be kidding me. I want to leave my review there, but I'm compelled to continue. If I can just keep one person from wasting their time, I hated this book. The author had an idea, an interesting idea, but it didn't support a novel. The further I got in the story, the worse it got, until the attic. The attic scene was ridiculous. What two pregnant women spend 8 months together confined to a house with nothing to do and don't even think about their deliveries? At the very least, they should have practiced breathing exercises, but no, it hits all the housemates as such a surprise. And of course the labors are synced, because doesn't that kind of thing happen to women who live together? Alert, male author." And the women are able to climb the attic stairs and have their babies on the wooden attic floors. What kind of BS is that? Well, I can imagine that they could have their babies anywhere, but I agree about the sinking of the birth was very stupid, and I agree there was like no lead up to it. Yeah, I get that. Oh, the whole description of the labor was ridiculous. It felt like the baby was trying to push up through my windpipe instead of down through the birth canal. What? Has the author ever talked to a woman who has had a baby? Oh, and then there's a spoiler in that one too. I have to say I completely agree with Stephanie. Like, it was ridiculous. That scene, it is like Josh Malerman has never met a woman or known a woman who's given birth. They don't do any of those things, and like no one syncs their, you can sync your periods together sometimes. Sometimes women's periods sync up, but not their births. No, that doesn't make sense. I really liked that one. Oh, this is a good review. Rebecca wrote, "Perhaps I'm missing something. This book was on so many lists of must-read books, and there are so many favorable reviews, but I just don't get it. It's very badly written, full of humongous plot holes. For example, many months after the cataclysmic event, they decided they needed some dogs, so they looked in houses. They found some. How had they survived with no food or water? There were loads of plot holes like this. When the author had no reasonable explanation, he just ignored it. The characters are boring and undeveloped. We know very little about them, and it's not in the least bit scary or surprising. I found it boring, silly, unoriginal, and pointless." I was super scared by it, but I never thought about the dogs. How would they have survived? That's a good point. Okay, some of these people who've read Bird Box have really good points. I'm gonna end it there, I think, because this is like a really long video. But yeah, that was a little bit of torture at the beginning, and then it got humorous at the end. Let me know in the comments below if you've also hated any of these books. I almost don't want to hear it, but if you have, I will be polite in the comments below. I'll talk with you guys soon. Bye.